Our conversation on this particular subject matter is going to be on the leadership, the role of leadership in shaping the future. And our guest joining us via Zoom is Senator Iroegbu Secure, who is a security and public affairs person. Good evening, Honorable.
Good evening, Roslyn, right?
Okay,
Hello.
let's just dive right into the conversation for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, we are going to highlight the role of leadership. How is it important to have people play, the role of being a leader in shaping the future of every other person out there?
Yes, leadership is very important in any society. In fact, leadership is actually what differentiates one society to another. And leadership is what has also brought about civilization. Because in the past, when there was no sense of leadership among humanity, it was said that men were living the Hobbesian law of nature. Thomas Hebb propounded it, was a reality before. Eye for an eye, all man for themselves, God for us all. Things were chaotic. Life was short, brutish, because everyone was living for himself, his or herself. Until society thought about, okay, let's band it together, let's have some set of people where we relinquish our power to, they will in turn organize us, lead us, direct us. So leadership is important because it will define vision, it will define terms, aims and objective vision for living for society. So this is where social contract comes in, whereby the people will now relinquish their rights, some certain amount of rights and listen to those leaders to in turn act in their own overall interest. So it brings structure, it brings serenity, it brings direction, it brings certainty, it brings um, a kind of civilization. So without it, man will just be a sort of another animal. Even animals we watch. Some of us who love Nat Geo Wild Animal Planet, we even see some animals do organize themselves in a social structure. So leadership is very important to bring vision, to interpret vision, to lead, to direct, to interpret and bring the objective, the aspiration, the aims and objective of purpose to reality.
Okay, Honorable, just to get a clearer view, what are those characteristics you see in someone and assume that, or rather conclude that this person is a leader?
Okay, a leader is someone who has the ability to mobilize, ability to direct, ability to see things beyond personal gain and look at overall interest of the people. So for a leader, especially in this era we are, such a leader, such a person has to have a sense of adaptability and agility. That leader must be able to navigate complex, ever-changing environment we live in. You know, be able to understand what has happened before, how it's impacting in the present, and be able to interpret and lead us to the future we desire. So a leader must be agile, must be adaptable, A leader should also not only have intelligent quotients, be able to, interpret things, be able to understand things, but also emotional intelligence, whereby that leader should have empathy, should show empathy to understand why people are in a situation. Then effective communication, conflict resolution is very crucial. So you have to be hands-on. You have to be able to reach to the people you are leading, be able to understand their plight, be able to interpret how they can get out of that plight and how they can fulfill their dreams and move from one state to another. Then for a modern leader, you have to be data driven in your decision making. You should understand why um, um, economic growth may not translate to development. You may be able to understand why certain GDP may not be enough for a certain population. You should be able to understand why so many thousand per barrel of oil is not enough for a population, or know how many fuel we consume in a day, be able to know how this impacts the economy or how our production will match it. So you should be data driven. So leveraging on data analysis, and even as things are going on technology, you should be hands-on. Then a leader should have a foresight, you know, look, be able to see ahead, far ahead of the future, maybe impending challenges and what can be done to, overcome those challenges, or where the trajectory should lead to, whether positive or negative, and how to channel the country towards those positive sides. So these are some of the qualities of a leader: empathy, foresight, effective communication, emotional intelligence, be able to be, data driven,
Okay,
understand the empathy.
with all these that you have said concerning the characteristics of a leader, would you say that leaders are born or leaders are actually made?
This argument has been going on for a long time, but I'm in the middle school of thought that both leaders are born, but most importantly, leaders are made. Born in a situation whereby um, we're all leaders in our own perspective. Once you are born as a human being, there's innate leadership ability, but there are those who have separated themselves, who have distinguished themselves, who have nurtured those leadership qualities and bring it to bear, have make it a dominant trait of their character. So why the majority becomes a recessive set. Also, leaders can be born in a hereditary kind of setting, whereby someone's father or parents or lineage, you come from maybe a monarchical setting, or even in communities whereby you have a head of some certain family, they produce leaders. But in a sense, but sometimes you find that those who also come from that leadership lack this capacity, all these characteristics I've told you about. That's why I say sometimes leaders are born, but eventually leaders have to be made. You have to bring out, you have to nurture it, you have to train yourself. So, and sometimes also you may not come from the lineage where leaders are born, maybe a hereditary kind of. You as begin to grow and assert yourself, people begin to see some certain qualities that makes you a leader, whereby you distinguish yourself, whereby you have the emotion, you have the passion, you have the capacity to lead and speak, people listen, and speak true to power and appeal to people emotions. You have empathy, you have foresight, you can communicate, you can interpret, you can foresee, you can, prepare for scenarios and, bring action to reality, to make things that people are perceiving, bring it to reality. So this is where leaders are made. They train themselves, they improve themselves, they learn from their mistakes, they begin to act on it. So leaders are born, leaders are also made. But in a sense, also, even when leaders are born, they have also make sure that they are also made. Because sometimes you see where leaders you are born, you inherited leadership, but you just don't understand how to make use of it. Then it becomes an anathema. So in essence, leaders are born, leaders are also made. But most importantly, whether born, you also have to pass through rudiment, improve yourself, train yourself, because you may have those qualities, but you have to also keep on improving on it. Like I talked about qualities of leadership, adaptability and agility. You have to follow trend, you have to improve yourself constantly. If not, that's why they say some people are living in the past generation. They are living, they don't read to update themselves, they don't even watch news to know what is going on. You are still using formula that is applicable 30 years ago, and you think you can apply it now. It will not work because you have failed to improve yourself, you have failed to adapt, you have failed to evolve. That's why also leadership they are made, and the circumstances. Another thing that says leadership, you may not find that you're a leader until situation comes and you find yourself, excelling in that circumstances, be able to mobilize people to overcome challenges, be able to mobilize people to navigate a process. Then over time, you find out that you become a leader. A leader has been made. That circumstances have ensured that a leader has emerged, like those of our founding fathers of Nigeria, who helped, to in the process of decolonization process into our independence. These people were born from, some of them from not known families. They didn't come from the lineage of kings. Over time, they went, they studied, they became, people begin to see them with qualities that makes one a leader that distinguish them from the rest. And they emerged. Because they sell in the situation, they became available to become a source of emancipation for the people. So, and people begin to put their trust in them because they believe they are speaking on their behalf, on their own interest. They are communicating to them, they are speaking their language, they are showing empathy, they have vision of which aligns with the interest of the people. Even when the people may not fully understand themselves or their vision, they will help them to interpret it effectively using their language.
All right then. With all this that you've said, it's obvious you have made clear that a leader is always there to guide and also see beyond what every other person sees, and also, have a way of projecting and also providing solutions in every situation. But would you say that a leader, the society would they always grow beyond the limitations of a leader, or they'll always remain in the ceiling of their growth?
Yes, there'll be a situation whereby society will grow beyond the limitation, but sometimes it becomes, that's what leads to revolution. And that's why leadership is critical, because leaders can limit the growth of a society, because it's the leaders that define their social, political, cultural well-being. Because like in my introductory remark, I told you about the Hobbesian law of nature, whereby at a certain point, the humanity begin to, relinquish, they need some certain set of people whereby they relinquish their right to, define, interpret, and lead them. Now, this is social contract. So that's why when people, either through voting or it has implication, the kind of leaders people have. That's why I think Chinua Achebe, talked about the Nigerian, the problem with Nigeria, and he concluded that it's a leadership issue. That Nigeria doesn't has no problem. Nigerian land and soil has no problem. Nigerian people themselves has no problem. You can see that. Okay, have you considered why Nigerians, people you consider average, that they will go outside this country where the environment recognizes competence, recognizing some, they will excel. Or you find certain things whereby Nigerian, they will disobey some traffic and all this. They go to a country where they are structured, where their leaders have put structure, have put things in place, because if you disobey those, you will be, the system or is in place to fish you out and you serve your punishment, and they behave. Who made those things? They are leaders. So leaders can limit the aspiration of people because they are the end and be all of those aspirations of the people, because they are the one interpreting it. So they can keep on interpreting it wrongly. So for you to change, that's why there's, for people who have over time, they create a form of governance called democracy, whereby they put periodic election, whereby if they are not satisfied the way certain leaders are doing, they will vote them out so that another will come. But somehow, and that's why you call despotic leaders who have imposed themselves on people, even if the people want them or not. So in such a situation whereby the aspiration of the people does not align with the vision of the leaders, it leads to violent change of government. That's why you begin to see revolution or coup or rebellion that lead to conflict and civil wars. So that's why leadership is very important.
All right then. So how can we really distinguish between a visionary leader and a deceptive one? So because with all these things that you said, that leadership can also act like a cage from breaking through, from break free. How can you really distinguish between the two types of leaders?
Very obvious. A visionary leader, for those of us who are Christians, say when the righteous is on the throne, the people rejoice. When the wicked, people suffer. It may not be literal in a way, but it's also literal. A leader who is visionary will be able to articulate these wishes and aspirations of the people and begin to act on it in a way that impacts on their well-being and lead them to a better life, a more progressive life over time. You find out that your situation last year, your situation this year is better than the last year, and that the one that is coming will likely be better than this year. Even when there's a temporary suffering, a leader who is visionary will be able to communicate to the people. The people will be able to see that, yes, even if this situation is temporary, basically we are going somewhere. It's not in a situation where, and that example has to come from the leaders. It's not in a situation where some leaders will impose harsh punishment on the the visionary leader, our leaders who will carry the people along and be able to show them a destination where they are going, a destination for a better future, for a better reality. And people will begin to see landmarks of such trajectories, not a hollow promises, whereby you throw word and people cannot reconcile your word and promises with reality. They will begin to see indices, begin to see milestones. You may not have gotten there, but there are milestones that shows that there is progress, and you live exemplarily, not in a situation whereby you say people should sacrifice, they are paying so much of taxes, they are bearing so much burden, Why you as a leader, you are living so large. You are not even feeling, your reality is different from the people you are leading. You are living opposite of what you still live frivolously at the expense of people's commonwealth, at taxpayers' money. And why you are imposing so much tax on these people, say they should be patient because the future will be better. If the future will be better, it will have to start from the leaders, because the leader that distribute and determine resources. A frivolous leader who live lavishly while telling people to bear will not be capable of being trusted with the resources, because he will fritter away those resources. So a visionary leader is a leader who have set benchmarks and begin to work towards it and begin to carry people along. They will see milestones while they also set exemplary living. We'll give example of such leaders over time. Where the one we like to cite so much in this climb is Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. And there are so many of them who have led their country from a third world country that was at parity, or even sometimes most of them were worse off uh, uh, compared to Nigeria when they gained independence. But today, Singapore is even far better than some of the so-called first world countries. The same applies to so many other emerging countries in Asia, you know, and some South America. So this is what exemplary leadership. So that Lee Kuan Yew set up some measures whereby the country will move from their poor state, and over time there was a trajectory of growth, of development, and they set a personal example. They were not living large at the expense of the people. They were living the reality of the people, setting examples of how they want things to be done. But for those, the opposite of it are those who I've mentioned in the course of this, their interest is their own interest comes first before the interest of the people. Their own well-being comes first before the well-being of the people and the state. So they don't care, as long as they are comfortable, their family are comfortable, their cronies are comfortable, then the rest of the country. So most of them live for now, not for the future. Even when they tell people to excite patience for the future, is to please excite patience so that you don't disturb us, so that we can enjoy our own time. Because when you look at their life, you find that, for example, I will use Nigerian leadership example. Okay, you have leaders who are leading you. They don't patronize their health system and health sector. If they have any headache, they fly abroad. They don't patronize their education system. All their children are schooling abroad. They don't patronize their markets. Most of their things are bought abroad. They don't even know what market feels like, because all these things are provided for them. The state pay them allowances for this, yet also buy it for them. If there's fuel scarcity, they have fuel depots behind their offices and their houses. They don't queue. If worst case scenario, they have PAs and servants who goes to do this for them. So they don't live their reality. They don't even understand what is going on. And they are not even ready to compromise their own comfort for the future. So these are different. If things happen, they are not empathic. They don't speak your language. They don't even communicate. They have retinue of aides who will issue press statements. Then if there is too much they will abuse those who want to raise critical voices and try to shut them down and be shielded from even, in fact, sometimes they are either they don't even read. Like I say, a leader should read and adapt. They shield themselves with aides who tell them everything is fine because they don't walk through the street. They don't interact with ordinary people. When tragedy happens, they don't visit. Even when they are compelled to visit, they make it a ceremony. So these are different of visionary leaders and short-sighted and reactionary leaders we have.
Okay, with all this that has been said, in a world where people are more concerned about the results and not even the whole process, if it's with integrity or not, in a world like that, do we still value ethical leadership?
Yes, in the heart of hearts, and that's why I say leadership and leaders are very important because they set the tempo. When leaders are short-sighted, when leaders love psychophancy, instant gratification, they begin to set the tempo. They begin to compel the rest of the populace to begin to act like them because they reward people who are sycophantic to them. They reward their cronies at the expense of the generator of the public, at expense of overall development. So people begin to mimic what the system is throwing at them as a survival tactic and instinct. So over time, we are living in Nigerian situation in a reality whereby people have been conditioned to try to please the government of the day or the administration for patronage and not even critically scrutinize them whether they are right or wrong, because the people now are living to survive, not even question their leaders. So, and these leaders, whatever crumb they throw, people begin to see it as a favor, not as their right. So this is the situation where the society find itself until maybe either by act of providence or some certain set of people over time who want to act different begin to emerge and reawaken the consciousness of people. And that's why even if you check in the history, even before Europe began to industrialize, there was something that's called the Age of Renaissance. This Age of Renaissance was period of awakening, when people begin to shake off their slumber, begin to say, no, we are better than this. We should not be. That time in the Middle Ages, the people were compelled not to think for themselves. Only the priests, the nobles, and the lords think for the people. The rest are like zombies. Until they begin to question some of these parameters, some of these canons that was passed to them as law, divine order. Then they begin to get renaissance. And what followed was revolution here and there. Some were violent, like French Revolution. Some were not too violent, like the English one. So after that, the age of industrialization began to take place. And that's how we have the Europe, which they pass to other countries that are developing today. So it can reach at a point, some people will begin to awaken the consciousness of the people. They begin to doubt their reality. They begin to challenge the system they've imposed on them to accept that is not visionary, that is reactive, that is sycophantic, that is short-sighted.
All right then, with all that
Hello?
you have said,
Okay.
in a nutshell, we're just about to round up this conversation. In a nutshell, how can the personal character of a leader push the society beyond just the economic or political strategies?
Yes, personal character of a leader is very important. You know, they always say leadership by example. Leadership by example. So it matters when a leader, and that's why I was saying, and for a country like Nigeria, it matters a lot because we are yet to create a system that will compel leaders to behave in a certain way. So, because we don't yet have that system, we have not yet built institutions that will be, even if we have nature throws us with leaders that are foolish or leaders that are, non-conform, that system in a way will mitigate some of the excesses. That's where the difference with the West, because their system is 80%, leadership is 20%. But here, the leadership is 80%. System, I'm not even sure if it's up to 20. So now that's why we need a good leader who will help to mold and lead the people, set personal example, so that we can actually over time build a strong institution and system. So when people begin to see a leader who is not swayed by sycophancy, by frivolity, that is ready to save and put that money to good use. For example, I will cite what is happening currently. When this current came, over time, I think all the reality was that we have to remove fuel subsidy. If not, the country will collapse on. So removal of fuel subsidy was not the major challenge, but how it was implemented. The whole thing came as a shock at a one-fell sweep. There was no shock absorber that was put for people to cushion the suffering. They don't push it on the people at a one-fell sweep. Okay, the deed has been done. Now, what that did was to release a lot of funds from the federal to the state to the local government. There's a lot of fund that is available now for governments across the country, both federal and the state, to do a lot of work. As it stands, with the amount of money available for governance to government across the country, this nation is supposed to be a construction site with so many projects going on from federal to the state, from roads to education to health to whatever. People are supposed to be seeing the impact with speed and alacrity. But what happened? Instead, the money, the leaders begin to see more money for more frivolities, for jamborees, to do a lot of political gambling, buy over, do this and that. There's no personal example. You see that the convoy has become bigger. Contracts have become larger. More budget to do a lot of jamborees and frivolities. So, and people are looking at this. You are telling us to pay more for fuel, pay more for electricity, pay more for water, do all this, but we are not seeing the same. There's no austerity measure on your own side. So you are not living setting personal example. So every other people who are looking up to them, from their peers to all the cronies, begin to adopt the same style. So people, no question. That's why you see not much compared to the amount of money available to most of from the federal to the state, not much is happening. Yes, some are doing, but I bet you what you see, even those who are working, is not up to 20% of what should have been done if they are doing the work. Then that's why you should even pity or even cry for those who are not doing anything at all with the amount of money that subsidy has freed. So personal example is very crucial. It helps other countries. In China today, as a leader, it's not as if corruption has completely 100%, but to a larger degree, because there are punitive measures. If you're a leader, you are fine to use state fund for personal. Look at the Israeli prime minister today. He's fighting for his political life. That's why he's doing all manner of things. Because what was the offense? Him and his wife collected a gift, and they say it's bribery gifts. So some of these things put leaders in check, because they have to set a personal example for others to follow. So personal example is very important. And I'm sure most Nigerians are looking for such leaders. Within the depth of their heart, they are looking for such leaders.
Of course. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your contribution on this particular subject matter.
You're welcome.
We will be there. Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.